All right. So when you see the abomination that causes desolation standing in the holy place, spoken of through the prophet Daniel, let the reader understand. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let no one on the roof of his house go down to take anything out of his house. Let no one in the field go back to get his cloak. How dreadful it will be in those days for pregnant women and nursing mothers. Pray that your flight will not take place in winter or on the Sabbath, for then there will be great distress unequaled from the beginning of the world until now, and never to be equaled again. If those days had not been cut short, no one would survive, but for the sake of the elect, those days will be shortened. At that time, if anyone says to you, look, here is the Christ, or there he is, do not believe it, for false Christs and false prophets will appear and perform great signs and miracles to deceive even the elect, if that were possible. See, I have told you ahead of time. So if anyone tells you, there he is out in the desert, do not go out. Or here he is in the inner rooms, do not believe it. For as lightning comes from the east, is visible even in the west, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. Where there is a carcass, there vultures will gather. Immediately after distress of those days, the sun will be darkened. The moon will not give its light, and the stars will fall from the sky. The heavenly bodies will be shaken. At that time, the sign of the Son of Man will appear in the sky, and the nations of the earth will mourn. They will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of the sky with power and great glory, and he will send his angels with a loud trumpet's call. They will gather his elect from the four winds, from one end of the heavens to the other. Now learn this lesson from the fig tree. As soon as its twigs get tender and its leaves come out, you know that summer is near. Even so, you see all these things, you know that it is near, right at the door. I tell you the truth, this generation will certainly not pass away until all these things have happened. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. Thanks for joining me for my chapter 5. I think we're booking right along. I'm really excited to upload this one and let you guys have a peruse. We've made it most of the way through Matthew chapter 24. There is a small excerpt at the beginning that gives us context for this discussion. So Matthew chapter 24 starts out where Jesus has left the temple and is walking away, and his disciples come up to him and call attention to his buildings. And they say, do you see all these things? And he says, I tell you, not one stone will be left on another. Every one will be thrown down. And so then he goes up and he's sitting on the Mount of Olives, and his disciples come to him privately and they say, tell us, when will this happen? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age? That's kind of a problematic question. It assumes that these are conjoined events. And so Jesus gives the information on the events that's conjoined. Oftentimes prophecy will have a double meaning. And so the prophet Isaiah lays out prophecy against the city of Tyre. He prophesies their destruction, and there is a small fulfillment. But there's a later, more scriptural fulfillment that happens where Alexander the Great comes in, and because the Phoenician navy has him surrounded, he keeps his army together, and they take the stones of the city, and in fulfillment of the scripture, they cast every stone of the city into the sea to build Alexander's causeway so that they can cross. So thank you for joining me, and we'll be moving on to my next chapter and my discussion on why Ted Cruz and Tucker Carlson. Ted Cruz said some things, but the things Tucker Carlson said were very damaging to the church. And I think he's made some assumptions and led some people to make some assumptions that are not necessarily true and not necessarily to be assumed. And that this is an attack on the church and on the nation of Israel at the same time. And that really is biblical. So thank you, and I'll see you in the next chapter.